Today's guest is arguably the most important person I'll have on this show. She's born and raised in New Hampshire. She's brutally honest in ways that only a New Englander can be. And yet somehow she married a Southerner that takes 3 business days to finish a sentence. Today we're going to talk about what this show is founded on, how where you're from makes you into who you are, what you take from that place. We're going to talk about family, mental health, and what happens when two completely different worlds come together and decide to build a life. Today's guest is my wife and future co-host of this show, Mariah. My love, I'm very glad that you get to be my first. My first.
Your only, your last.
My last.
Your
but
last.
First interview at least.
Yes.
So where are we today?
We are at Rocky Point State Park in Rhode Island.
That is right.
It is in Rhode Island, but I don't remember what city.
I don't remember what city. How
don't know.
familiar are you with Rhode Island? I mean, because you grew up here, so how often?
Oh my goodness. My parents, I honestly probably went my entire childhood understanding that Rhode Island was near us.
But never.
But we did not go
going.
to Rhode Island. We barely went to Massachusetts, and we had family in Massachusetts, but we did not go to Rhode Island. I couldn't tell you one time that I was taken here.
Your family barely comes to Massachusetts now, as it is. We normally have to go to them. So.
Oh, 100%. And all growing up, my mother was always masshole. Everyone was a masshole.
Yeah, which is actually, I've learned, a term of endearment for people that are in Mass.
I think that depends. I think that really depends. My mom always used it in a negative sense. But my dad grew up in Massachusetts, so he was a born masshole. And out of my whole family, my mother and I are the only two that were not born in Massachusetts. We were born in New Hampshire, but everyone else was born in Massachusetts. So really,
Right.
we moved to New Hampshire. We were massholes.
So you were born in Milford, Massachusetts, and I'm not from here, so I just want to know.
Nashua.
You were born in Nashua. I'm sorry. You were raised in Milford?
You think Milford had a hospital? You saw that it is a town of like 6. So yes, we had to go to Nashua, which is one of the cities.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that is where I was born, and that is where my mother was born.
Okay, so your whole family, pretty much, your lineage is from New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like for you growing up in New Hampshire? Like, what was your childhood like? If you could think back, I guess one thing that makes you think of New Hampshire.
Live free or die.
Yeah,
I
okay,
say
it's a fucking
all of the time.
Crazy
all of the time.
statement, so.
It's probably one of my favorite things about New Hampshire, despite the fact that it is illegal to smoke weed. And yet, live free or die. You don't have to wear a helmet on a motorcycle. You don't have to wear your seatbelt if you are over 18. Live free or die. Take your life in your own hands and do with it what you will.
I feel like New Hampshire is just our grumpy uncle who really sticks with like the freedom aspect of it, but only the freedom that he understands. He's like, we're not going to smoke weed, but we're going to ride with that motorcycle. It's for sure.
Yeah.
And we're not going to pay taxes. So it's a very interesting place. I've heard that before. There's people in comments that are like, whether there's no weed in the state, even though it's live free or die. Live free or die in the way that we choose for you to live free and die.
Yes, exactly. But otherwise, everyone always just talked about the old man on the mountain, but he had fallen. I will get these dates incorrect. He had fallen, I want to say, probably a little bit after I was born. So there was no man on the mountain for us to look at anymore, but it was heavily talked about.
Is this a metaphor, or is there a literal old man on the mountain?
No, there's a mountain that had a face that if you looked at the profile correct, it looked like
Oh, so
a
it's
man.
not like Mount Rushmore where they purposely carved faces. It was just, it looked, the natural build of it was a face.
Yes, and it's
Interesting.
the granite
And the face
state.
fell off?
It fell off. The face fell off.
Huh, okay. Are we going to rebuild the face by
No.
chance? Okay, so, all right. Well, back in my town in Boaz, Alabama, we had a less exciting monument. It had gone away right before I was born, but a very highly racist sign that said, "Don't let the sun set on your
black ass, which is just in the epitome of Alabama. We're not very far from the horrors that were. So right before I grew up, that was a sign that I heard about. I don't think it fell off. I think somebody finally took it off.
They took it off. They're
Yeah,
like, we're not gonna do this
very
anymore.
bizarre. Yeah, less exciting. So if you brought me there now to Milford, which was your playground. Nashua was just where you were born. Your playground was Milford. If you brought me there now, what's one thing that you would have to bring me to, have to show me?
The oval.
The oval.
The oval.
Okay, you have faces and ovals. All right. So,
The oval is, and I would most likely bring you for Pumpkin Fest,
okay,
which happens at the oval.
that sounds exciting.
It was when I was in high school, very much so. It was, you go hang out with all of your friends. There was a pizza shop that also had an arcade attached to it that all of the kids would go to and usually not play arcade games, but you could play arcade games. But the oval, there's a gazebo. We, in New Hampshire, I think that you have seen this driving around a couple of times. We really love gazebos in the middle of I think New England in general really loves gazebos in the middle
I'm
of
very
our
observant,
towns.
so I haven't noticed
Oh.
noticed any gazebos ever
have-
at all up here. I thought mostly, I'm going to be honest, I thought gazebos were kind of a southern thing. We had one in our backyard, a gazebo. It was so run down, even as a child.
Yeah.
But
That's the one
Yeah.
that Papa's are always fixing up with wasps' nests.
yes, yeah,
in the
yeah,
fan.
it's got a fan.
Yeah. Well, we had one on the oval.
Okay.
And that's where like the band would play sometimes, or people would speak, or it's just where everyone kind of gathers. The gazebo is in the center, and then it's a rotary all the way around. And there's probably like 4 or 5 exits, but all throughout there's different restaurants. Like the Red Arrow was there. That was one of our diners that you could go all night. There's Kilkenny's. That's one of the pubs that
The cousin
even
of Kill Tony. Okay.
Kilkenny's has been there though since my mother and aunt were growing up. They used to go to
And it's a
Kilkenny's.
diner, like Al Max
It's
or?
a bar.
Okay.
Red Arrow's a diner. Kilkenny's is a bar.
That makes more sense, yeah.
Yes. So there's different restaurants, there's different bars, and during Pumpkin Fest we would have different vendors come and different food trucks, and the rides that you probably shouldn't get on, but you're going
ones that
to
they
because
build in
they
about 30
transition from
minutes.
state to state, and they they put some super glue on it and call it a day.
Tighten a couple bolts. And
Yes.
You're ready to go.
That would be right down where there'd be a haunted trail that the kids would set up. The kids would end up set up, and you could volunteer to be a part of the haunted trail and scare the living daylights out of little children, and old people.
Nice.
But the Pumpkin Fest was usually when we got the most amount of visitors because it was a fall fair of sorts. You could go during the daytime with your kids. You could go at nighttime. It got a little bit more rowdy, but there was always something to do, and you would usually see every single person in that town there. You'd see all of your high school teachers. You'd see all of your middle school teachers. You'd see the people that are telling you, I knew you since you were this old.
My God.
So-
2,000 miles away, and we had pretty much the same childhood. We had a fall fair, almost exactly where you see everybody you've ever known. And it's kind of in the middle. We didn't have an oval, but we had the old outlets, which is where Boaz kind of got its reputation to begin with, was the outlets. Everybody came from everywhere for the outlets. And
Was it
then-
like an outlet mall?
Yeah, outdoor outlet mall. Not
Okay.
anything you have to go inside, but every store is outside.
Yes.
And so
Like when we
it
go to rent
eventually
them.
died because other cities grew much better, Huntsville, Birmingham, things like that. But we still had the fall festival where the outlets was, and so vendors and things would set up. And for the life of me, I can't remember what it was called. I've been to too many festivals now. I'm thinking of the Peanut Festival. That's in.
You had a peanut festival?
Had a peanut festival in Dothan, Alabama, which was much bigger. They had rides. The fall festival from Boaz, no rides. Just a lot of expensive vendors selling homemade stuff that you don't need. You're like, you want $12 for this seashell bracelet that I know you put together in 5 minutes? No, thank you. Susan, because you never knew everybody.
Did your fall festival have who has the biggest pumpkin because we had who has the biggest pumpkin.
We did not have who had the biggest
Oh,
pumpkin. We had child labor. We had the child fashion. What is that called? Children and beauty pageants that we had. Still, I think it goes on today. Yeah, where you just grow up with resentment against your peers because they got voted Miss Boaz Fall Festival or whatever it was.
no,
when
we
you were
did
in.
not. We did not have that.
Hmm.
The first night of Pumpkin Fest was usually everyone's favorite because we would have someone, and I don't remember what his name was, but there would be a man. All of the lights in the oval would shut off, and there would be a man in like a pumpkin hat or something, I swear, running through, and he'd go up, I think, Old City Hall, and he'd light something, and then you'd see, I need.
At least you had some kind of, I guess, town annual what is that called? We have
Like an annual event? Get
yeah, I
together?
guess it's just something that the town does every year. It's you got the man in the hat that runs and
Yes.
lights the Olympic thing or whatever. It is,
Essentially,
the
like
torch.
that's the idea of it. And I would
Yeah.
remember that there was a fire truck that would have their ladder all the way up at the top so that you could see, and there was a spotlight. And I don't know.
Well, that's cute though.
Sometimes I
mean,
would be there
every
and sometimes I
small
wouldn't,
town,
but-
it's a very small town feel.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I had
questions, Al.
teachers that my mother had when she was in school. That kind of tells you, my high school principal was my mom's theater teacher.
Right.
All of my health teachers were my mom's health teacher.
Yeah, we had that too. Some, very few, far in between, but we had one or two where they had been there from your parents to your siblings. You didn't have siblings, but I had siblings, and then they just had raised the entire town. And my grandmother's one of those where she teaches 4-year-olds,
Yes.
and she had taught kindergarten one time, but she still has people who are my age now that she's like, oh, now I'm meeting their kids, and so I can only imagine having teachers that taught your mom, because you guys are very different souls.
Yes.
So the teaching, just you can't teach you guys the same.
No,
or
absolutely
treat you
not.
guys the same. Did
No.
they? Did they?
It had been years.
I guess that's fair. They, didn't
They
really
saw,
remember,
some of them saw inklings of my mother in me,
which
but
excites you every day.
all of the time. I love knowing that I'm like my mother.
Yes.
And anyway,
That's how I,
fuels
cool
me.
you off. If I say you're acting like your mom, and it's the best,
I'm like-
you know what I mean? It really calms you down.
it does.
So-
It changes my attitude
Yeah.
very fast.
Oh, it's gone completely. So, I wanted to know, what did success look like in your town? I don't know if there was one family or person that you had in your hometown that just was the epitome of success, or if you just had careers in your town that brought some people certain levels of success. Like you would drive by houses and be like, oh, that's the old Schmitty's house, and they're the optometrist of the town,
Yeah.
so they have plenty of money.
No,
Really?
I think
Well, there is a house
Growing
that you
up-
say, when we get close to your parents, they say, we drive by these people who just built that house, and you say they have money, and it's
yes. Growing up, success, everybody was successful other than my family.
that's how you saw
That
it.
was how I saw it, and that was how I heard things often. I wasn't allowed to have friends come over because my family was embarrassed of where we lived, and so I really internalized a lot of that and started to understand if I went to a new friend's house, I would get really anxious and really nervous about the house that we were going to pull up to, and is it going to be really big? And it's okay if it's not, but if it's really big, are they going to know that
Right.
I'm poor? Like, are they
Eating
going
at the dinner table, just
Yes.
in a sense that you.
Yes, I would ask my friends. I didn't grow up religious. My parents didn't necessarily, they didn't balk at it, but we didn't go to church and we weren't really raised with any religion. But I did have the understanding that, of course, some families did go to church and things. And so I would often ask, once I got to my friend's house, if it was a new friend's house, are we eating at the dinner table? Because that was something that my family didn't do often. Or are we going to say grace? I could do that and I did it often, but I would just kind of hold hands with everyone and I felt like a fraud. It felt so incredibly like I was just this different person to them and that I shouldn't be sitting there because I don't understand. And I already at a young age was internalizing, you know, what are they thinking of me that maybe I don't know what to do or I don't know what to say, or can they tell that I've never been to church, or are we going to start talking about things that I'm not familiar with? So there was always that, but also as a child and being an only child, being around all adults, I did relatively well with my friends' parents. Like I would always try and have conversations with them. I would ask them how their day was and kind of not try and be friends with them, but I guess just be a person to them instead of a child. And be
Right.
like, I'm gonna go play with your child, thanks. Like,
You're sitting you're having coffee with them at
yes.
the table, and you're like, so I read in the newspaper that.
Sometimes my friends would get up if I did not like waking up first at a sleepover, but sometimes I
the
would. But
worst.
if I knew the family, it really depended. Like maybe I would go to the bathroom and they would already be up, and so they would chit chat with me and talk, or like that had happened a couple of times where my friends would wake up later than I would. I'd just be sitting and hanging out with their parents.
parents.
Like they were making breakfast just like you had kind of given the example of, like sitting and having coffee with them.
Right.
Like, yeah, we'd sit and we'd chit chat and talk about school, of course, and what we're doing. But
Yeah. Do you think that's affected you up until today? Do you think that is something that still kind of sits with you whenever you're, I mean, just living life now to where you feel like a fraud and
all of the time. All of the time. Yes, I feel like a fraud all of the time. I think that it gave me a lot of skills at a young age, but I do feel like it was too much to the point where I remember some of my friends doing things at a certain age that I all of a sudden had deemed really childish because we had to be mature.
right.
At a certain age,
You're hanging out with the parents,
Yeah.
so
we have to be mature. We're not, we're not pretending like we're in a music video in the back of the car singing Taylor Swift today. Like, we're serious. We're not getting all this candy. And it was kind of like a shift in my mindset. And now, as you've seen me throughout the years, I like pink all of a sudden. And I like some of the things that I didn't get to explore because all of a sudden I felt like I had to be an adult and I was around all of these adults and I had to impress all of these adults despite them not putting big expectations on me.
right.
And so it absolutely played a part in where I am now and who I am now and what I was like growing up.
Is that something that you feel like you've had to consciously work on and work out of, or do you feel comfortable in that to where you just you go somewhere like your new job opportunity and you're going to feel, do you think you'll feel like a fraud? Is that something that you have to push out of your brain still and work through?
It depends. It depends on what setting I'm in. I think my current job is one of the best examples that I could give, where I went into that job having confidence in my skill set. I got to know more of my coworkers, but I still tried to keep like a buttoned up personality. But once I started hanging out more with some of my coworkers, I started to loosen up a lot more, and the more playful, childish, truly like side started to come out more. And sometimes you'll see it with me at work. I'll be skipping around the office like la la la, and
Right, depending on your day, depending
yes,
on what has shifted your mood that day, for sure. But I mean, I have seen you be able to grow and open up and things like that. But I mean, I think it's not just you. I think we've all brought something from our childhood that has caused us to feel like an imposter in some sense. Like I feel like I get a sense, I'm quiet until I can get a sense of who I'm with, and then I will
Yes.
match that
Yes.
to them so that they don't feel weird around somebody, and I don't feel like I'm being somebody they're not going to like. So I've had to work on that to where I'm the same with you as I am with anybody else. But it's that sense of creating my own piece of just control of the situation. They're gonna like me because I'm gonna be just like them. I'm gonna love everything that they love.
Yep.
And I'm gonna know everything that they know. And if I don't, I'm just gonna stay quiet on it or ask them questions about it. But and you talked about religion, which is odd to me because I grew up in the South with the Bible Belt. So this was, Southern Baptist, oh my God, we fought with them all the time. Got to get there before the
Methodists.
The Methodists get there. Thank you. Yeah, and
They're gonna
Methodists,
eat
and
all the food.
They're all the same thing. They just believe maybe a different part or read a different Bible. It's not the King James, so they don't get
it's not
the
the real
same. We
version.
got to get to lunch before they do. But so I had that type of religion, and that's not something that I ever visualized being in the North. You all are a bunch of heathens that are godless heathens, even though I've grown out of my own, type, you know what I mean? I'm not religious as I was. And so, but growing up, that's what I thought. So was it Catholic? That's what I picture the North is just strict Catholic Catholicism.
That's the other thing. I never knew. I don't know.
That they believed in some kind of God.
And
that you needed to know what the prayers were.
I just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. Like, basically. Because I don't know.
I wonder what it was about your family that if they just weren't raised religious. So
well,
mine were.
It's interesting because when we went to go and visit your family, maybe the first time, I had reached out to my Nana about the fact that we were going to church. And that's when I found out that my Nana had taught Sunday school.
That's right, yeah. We learned something new.
Right then and there, I started to question, like, my Nana never raised, like, she had a hand in raising me. She never raised me religiously. And obviously she raised my mom and my aunt, and they were never religious. They were never rude or negative about it either. They were of the understanding, if that's what you believe, that's what you believe. That's just not what I truthfully believe.
That's nice. I didn't have that. That was not, it was, you believe this, you're burning in hell. You're going to know brimfire and hell, or brimstone and hellfire. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. You had told me that prior to us going and meeting them, and then I threw up on the plane like 17 times.
Yes. Yeah, maybe I probably should have saved that information before we even got on the plane. It was a rough plane ride too, but.
I don't know, because we ended up going to church all of a sudden. We did not plan on that, but I
didn't plan on that. It wasn't my plan. I didn't want to do that. I wasn't going to put you through that, or me.
I thought I had done a really great job. But I questioned my performance after your grandmother had said, I'm not going to see you here again, am I?
Well, I respected your answer. It was straight up, no.
Very politely.
That's where the opposite of me comes in. I would people please like a motherfucker. I would
I know.
Yes, absolutely, you're going to see us again. Then we'd get in the car and I'd be like, I'm never fucking coming to this place ever again. That would have been, and so.
We've had game plans before.
We have,
you have
but
not.
You have been very honest with my family. Not that I haven't been with yours, but I try to steer clear of answers that I know they won't like.
They don't like any answer, so.
You just stare with my family. You're like, nope, we're not moving down here. I got to be close to a beach. So I mean, I respect it completely, and so do they. They never said anything about it.
Welcome to the North. I'm going to tell you the truth.
That's a very spot on example of like brutal honesty, and where my Southern, I'll beat around the bush for 14 minutes before I get to the point. Or I used to. I've gotten better about it now, especially living up here. I feel like, anyway. Maybe I'm wrong, but.
I feel like I'm not answering the questions well in an interview because it's
you're
you.
Answering them great.
So I'm not always wrapping up well.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what do people want to actually listen to? I'm like, nobody wants to listen to what I've said.
I think people want to listen to what you've said, with, learning about the North and what it was like for somebody growing up in New Hampshire. And, you know what I mean? We're working the kinks out. You're helping me.
They never brought us to the Man on the Mountain as a field trip. That was never a field trip that we took.
They brought you to Plymouth Rock.
In the way, yes, they didn't bring us to Plymouth Rock, but they brought my mom to Plymouth Rock.
Oh, interesting. Everybody in the comments of that one video said that was their childhood.
Yeah, that was a staple field trip.
Yeah,
I did not get that field trip, but we
didn't
never
take
went.
many field trips at all. I think we went to the Black History Museum in Birmingham once. That was it. That's all the field trips I remember. Never.
We went on more field trips than that, that's for sure, but they were usually in Massachusetts, if I'm being completely honest with you.
Not New Hampshire.
No, there was one in New Hampshire, in Plymouth, Portsmouth, Strawberry Bank, and it was, I don't think it was for slaves, but like,
Right. Well, the Black History Museum.
that's like
That's where the start of it was.
yeah,
start
you would
there,
walk
and then-
through
yeah.
old houses and they would have the old setup of however they did things, and there would be like horses and carriages and like it was all dirt.
Yeah.
It was called I think Strawberry Bank. But otherwise, we would go to the Museum of Science, which is in Boston. We would go to the New England Aquarium, which is in Boston. I went to Battleship Cove, which we now
Yes.
walk
Every
nightly,
day,
which
yeah.
is insanity to me. But we didn't go up to North New Hampshire, to visit like the Flume Gorge or visit the Polar Caves or visit Mount Washington. We didn't do any of those things.
Right.
It was just like little.
But I mean, you
We went to
still got
Canopy Lake
go,
Park.
though. So that's nice.
Yes.
They brought you out. I don't remember.
Yeah, they took us out
ever
of our
going
prison.
We just never had field trips to go to. Mostly, I guess, because we were in Alabama and everything is 6 hours away that you want to get to. So
They
never
took
had that.
away the Washington, D.C. trip before, I think it was like a couple years before I was due to have it.
Of course, yeah. It's either after you leave or before
Yes.
they've ripped it away. Yeah, before you
Always.
get there. Yeah. So,
Yep.
and something in a positive turn, I guess. What is something that you feel like your parents got exactly right for you growing up in New Hampshire? Doesn't even have to be New Hampshire related. It's just, what do you feel like your parents got exactly right?
In what way?
Just raising you. It could have been a piece of advice or something you didn't listen to that they were right on. Just wanted a positive turn on the family dynamics of growing up.
Despite the fact that my parents kind of made it aware to me that they were embarrassed of where we were and that we didn't have much, they always made sure to make it seem like we did. My
Right.
parents worked very hard to ensure that I had Hollister or Aeropostale at the time or American Eagle. My mother opened a credit card for American Eagle just so that I could get clothes that had that branding.
Yeah.
And that, it was always with these credit cards that I was able to have Uggs when everyone else had Uggs. I didn't have everything that everyone had, and I didn't need everything that everyone had, but my parents were still understanding of just ensuring what that could have felt like for me as a kid, and they did take from their own experiences growing up. My mother always talks about how, I don't know how old they were, but my Nana used to make my mom and my aunt's outfits, and my mother hated them. She hated them. She wanted to be able to wear what she wanted to wear, which is a little ironic just given that we would get into arguments when it was time for back to school shopping,
Yeah.
because she thought that I looked really great one way and I wanted to do something different. And so
Express yourself.
I wanted to express myself. She wanted me to express myself, but in the way that she wanted it expressed. But they always ensured that I had things that made me feel like I was still a part of everyone. I remember my friends were able to be in the Brownies, and I was not able to be in the Brownies. The Brownies were another form of Girl Scouts, essentially. I want to say that it's just the younger group before you can be a Girl Scout, and all of my friends got to be Brownies, and that was one thing that I didn't get to have, but I had one green Hollister shirt,
Yeah.
so
It was something. It was whatever they could give you. Yeah.
Yes.
But the crazy thing is that what I thought we would never have similar is that our parents' made them clothes. That's not. That wasn't too far away from the South, where my grandfather walked barefoot, and that's a lot of the stereotype of the South is that we don't have shoes or bathrooms, and 2 generations ago that was very true. Like outhouses
Really, we
barefoot
didn't.
and making your own clothes, and so that's something I didn't picture would be that close in your family lineage. Common ground, you know,
I'm
and
not
thousands of
sure.
miles away.
Actually, I'm sure my Nana does know how much my mother hated those outfits.
Oh, with how your mother speaks, yeah, I'm certain she knew exactly how much your mother hated that. So, what eventually made you leave your hometown of Milford, New Hampshire?
How do I say like I
Or was
don't
it?
really have a positive spin. Like I want to get the fuck out.
Yeah, but I mean, that's how I felt about my hometown. That's okay. You can feel that way. Everybody, I feel like, or not everybody, but there's a lot of people who would resonate with that, feeling that way about your hometown.
From a young age, I knew that I wanted to leave, and I think that was kind of subconscious given how much I heard my mom and my dad say that they didn't want to stay in Milford. They always wanted to move. They always wanted to move to Florida. And I think that that really was ingrained in me
Yeah,
because I want to move to Florida and I have for years, but that's another point. But I always heard that they didn't want to be there. And so even though I hadn't been to a lot of places, it still kind of opened up the door to there's other places than here. And I had kind of taken in, I've always been relatively aware of my surroundings. And so, truthfully, at the Pumpkin Fest, that is one of the best examples of seeing townies. And that's fine.
yeah.
It is truly fine. If you want to stay there forever, that is okay. But there was something in me that I would constantly state, I don't want to be a townie. I'm never going to be a townie. I'm getting out of here. I didn't know where I was going to go until the opportunity of college came up. And so I was like, okay, this is one of my ways to get out of this state. For a few years, I'll stay there and we'll see kind of what happens. At the time, unfortunately, I was in an abusive relationship that told me that everybody in my high school hated me. And so that was one of the reasons that I didn't look at any of the New Hampshire state schools. I really wish that I had because I'm sure some people didn't like me and I didn't like me at that time either. I didn't like me very much either. So I don't blame those people, but I was like, okay, I'm going to start looking at different schools. And I did look at schools much farther than Massachusetts. Unfortunately, there were some people in my ear that made it seem really scary and like something was going to happen and I just wasn't going to be able to make it home for whatever reason. And so I was able to tour state schools in Massachusetts and I really enjoyed Bridgewater the most. It made it seem like it was a little community, but you still had campus and it wasn't necessarily a campus where everybody was driving through it, which was kind of a big thing for me. I wanted to feel like I was in my own secluded world, in my own community where everything was very walkable. So I ended up going to Bridgewater State and I made a lot of friends there. And I told myself, I'm never going back to New Hampshire. Love you, but no thank you. And ended up settling down here. And I've essentially been in Fall River ever since. I graduated in 2019. I moved into an apartment in 2019 in Fall River. Of course, I had a little stint in Pawtucket, but
Yeah.
I've been in Fall River for the past
You're welcome.
7 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, the college route is what a lot of people take to get out. I couldn't do that personally. I didn't have the opportunities to leave because I did horrifically. I was opposite of you in high school where I paid zero attention to my grades and thought I'll figure it out as I fly by the seat of my pants constantly. But that's what a lot of people do. And it's not the hatred of my hometown. It's just I'd been there and I felt like I'd done everything and it was just time to go. There's other things I felt called to be elsewhere. It's not, and some people make a life in
Yes.
home and they never leave and they're perfectly happy.
I applaud
I was
those
never
people.
going to be that. So yeah, I completely get where you're coming from.
I would love to have been one of those people because, moving can be very difficult. You need a lot of money and then you're building a new community. I would love to have been somebody that could just stay in their little bubble.
Yeah.
But like even from a young age, even though I didn't know what was out there or what success really looked like. Everybody in my family had always kind of just had these smaller jobs, with the exception of like my Nana. But I knew I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
And even now, I want to be somewhere else.
Well, you want to be where it's warm. I know the answer to that one. So, after college, you got a degree in psych, right? So you've pursued that career.
Yes.
And what do you do now? What is your line of work that you do?
I
now?
am a clinical coordinator for therapeutic foster care currently.
Is that always the plan?
No.
Okay.
When I had decided that I wanted to do psychology, it's interesting to me that I ended up where I did, because I had always stated that I wanted a job where I was helping families and I was helping, the child or the youth within that family, because growing up in New Hampshire at that time, there weren't a lot of mental health resources. And so I didn't necessarily know what that role was or what it looked like, but I knew I wanted to work with families and I wanted to work with the kiddo on just, any mental health resources or coping skills or anything that family needed assistance with, because that's what my family would have benefited from. And so I had one job after college that was a residential facility. I was only there for a short time, but then my following job was in-home therapy, which truly was the role that I didn't know existed. That was what I wanted to do, where I was able to do a family session, I was able to do a one-on-one with the youth, and I was able to do a parent session. And that is essentially what I wanted to be able to do once I realized I wanted to do psychology.
Sort of to fix
From
something that
within.
you didn't get.
Yeah.
You wanted to be able to provide.
I
Right.
wanted to be a person that I wish I had growing up.
Right.
And so I was able to do that. And I really loved that job. And I still really miss doing that job, as you've heard me say
have.
plenty of times before. I enjoy a lot of things about my job now. I still love working with the kids, as you know, but I really loved being able to go into their home, sit down like at the kitchen table, sometimes on their couch, and just get down into what happened this week. How can we help you? What do you need to be like a successful family moving forward?
Yeah. A mediator, sort of,
Yeah.
I guess, just a middleman to kind of.
One of my favorite interventions that, Katie and I would use would be when we would go into a family. Some weeks we would do real sessions where we talked about this skill and that skill. And then some weeks when we just realized that they just need to be a family, we'd bring a board game and we would just play a board game with them and just remind them, you're all a family. We can all work together on something. There's a common goal. We all want the same thing. We all just want to work together and be a family. And sometimes those sessions were the most beneficial sessions out of any of the other sessions.
Which is crazy to me. A board game would have torn my family apart. It would
We
have
didn't bring
never-
Uno, okay? We did not bring Uno.
It wasn't like Sorry or anything like that where you have to be competitive. Monopoly, God.
Oh, that would have taken way too
You
long.
would
And
have been there for the day. Yeah.
I love kids, but having to pay for no.
Yeah, there were people in my family that would rage quit games, if, you know what I mean? So it would have not have gone well. We would have needed a mediator there for
Yeah.
sure. We didn't play board games, so it's an odd twist on fixing something where I view it as just very destructive and we stayed away from.
Yeah, you're like,
it would
this is
tear
going
us
to end
apart.
in conflict.
Yeah,
This
always.
is not, we're not going to sing Kumbaya at the end of this. Of course, sometimes that would happen, but then you really would have the mediators there to kind of remind the family of, we're just trying to have fun. This is
Right.
very low stakes. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, no one's timing you or watching you. Or it also showed us a lot about how families communicate with each other, even if it's during something that should be positive.
That does make sense.
And how sometimes you can't super help people in board games, but sometimes you can. And so is somebody going to be more willing to help you and explain something to you, or are they just going to let you fail?
Right.
And building trust with your family.
That's genius, I guess, to get down like it's dropping the walls to get to root problems of finding out who a person really is. Are they
Yeah.
actually helpful, or are they against you? You know what I mean? I guess,
It's not that hard.
no. Was there a detour? If and there, it doesn't have to be a yes or no answer. Like it can just be no. Was there a point in your college career or career that you feel like has been your biggest detour in life, of where you were, where you wanted to go, and to where you're headed now?
What do you mean?
Like, was there an event that changed your mind about what what you were doing, I guess, and to what you're doing now, or what you're doing? Because I mean, you're taking a step into something new now. So, now that you work in mental health, was looking back into your childhood, was mental health something that you or your family or friends were able to talk about openly, or was it a hush hush thing, and kind of like your culture of the town?
I honestly believe that some of it was the culture, but I think that some of it was the culture overall back then. Like, we have come so far in mental health and understanding the impacts of mental health and what mental health really is, whereas I feel like, 20 years ago, it wasn't as discussed or understood. And so at a young age, social media was essentially introduced, even though it was not beneficial for us. But a platform called Tumblr was something that a lot of my friends and I got on. Tumblr was not an amazing outlet by chance. It showed a lot of negative sides, and a lot of pages glorified depression, and they glorified loving a person with depression. And that was the same time when the little wristbands came out that said to write love on her arms, because it had to do with loving somebody's scars, in which it was alluding to self-harm. So in terms of friends, it was talked about, but it wasn't talked about always in a negative way, of like a concerning way. It was almost like well, I'm more depressed than you. But then,
Almost like a challenge of who could be the more depressed girly.
kind of,
I mean, nobody could have predicted the effect that social media would have on the mental health of our
no.
country or youth, and it still continues to today, where it has spiraled at MySpace, Tumblr, and then it's just gotten so much deeper about even just seeing things that other people have. And I know it's untrue, but I still fall for it sometimes, where I'm like, they have a great life. I don't know what their life is like, except for the
Yes.
pictures that they choose to show. And so even today, I feel like it's not as open as it should be. And now we're losing so much funding, and we don't have the places that we used to have, where if somebody's chatting up a pole, they would just kind of pull up in a van and be like, come with us. But as a child, it definitely wasn't talked about for us. So I just didn't know if growing up in the North, that there was a bit less of a stink to what mental health actually is.
I don't think that it was widely understood. And so when you have essentially 12-year-old girls just talking to each other about how they're feeling and how they're so depressed, unfortunately at that time, I didn't quite realize what I was doing. I was going through my own struggles myself, and I was engaging in self-harm. And I would tell my friends about it because, hey, it's on Tumblr. So I wasn't
It's
posting it on
popularized.
Tumblr, but it's popularized. And thankfully, I had a friend who wasn't like not cool with it, but she was concerned. And so she ended up going to the school counselor, and my family got a phone call that day, and my dad had brought me home. And at I'm saying at the time a lot, but at the time they were very frustrated and they were very upset. And I didn't understand, and growing up, I got angry with them that they had just thrown me in therapy and called it a day, and thought that that was a band-aid to the situation. And so after getting into the mental health field and knowing what the protocol is, if a school gets that call, I asked my family, did the school give you any resources? Did they try and assist you? The school never pulled me in after. They never talked to me. They just called my family and called it a day. And my family wasn't given any resources and wasn't provided anything. And so I can only imagine what it's like to be a parent and to have a child who's engaging in self-harm and basically have no help,
Right.
and understanding that when there almost isn't any help because people don't believe that it's happening, it can reflect poorly on the parents. Like, what are the parents doing wrong? And so it was very important to me to get into this field and to try and help parents like that want to do right and they want to help their child. My parents wanted to help me as much as they possibly could, but no one was giving them the resources. What do you, that's not a quick Google search. My child just cut themselves. What do I do?
Right.
In 2009?
Yeah, and I feel like putting you in therapy and then just calling it a day almost feels like shifting the blame as to, well, what's wrong with you, not what's wrong with the atmosphere or climate that my child's in.
That's how it
And
felt.
yeah, isolation almost of, well, I'm the problem.
Yes.
And then, there's something wrong up here with me that I have to fix with my
Exactly.
therapist, who probably has no clue what, there's so many great therapists, but they are specialized. And so there's so many that aren't specialized in self-harm. So it's a tricky, I mean,
I felt bad for the therapist that got me because since there was no conversation like after the, you don't do that, you're
Right.
going to therapy, I was like, I'm not telling her anything. Like,
Yeah,
it
you
wasn't
shut down.
beneficial. No, I completely shut down. It actually almost gave me more to control.
Right.
I was like, you can bring me here all you want, but I'm not going to tell her the truth. I'm not going to talk to her because no one has talked to me about how I'm feeling. It's just,
Which was
what
the
did you
root of
do?
the issue, which is ironic.
All behavior is communication. And once more parents realize and understand that if your child's throwing something, it's not just for fun. There's probably something wrong. There's probably something going on. And just asking them on their level, not accusatory or rude or aggressive, just what happened today? Or where are you at? Like, just,
Well, as
there's
terrible
other
as your
ways.
experience was, at least you've been able to bring that out and go help others with it. Something, again, that you didn't have, that you were able to give back to the community, at least shed light on, taking from your situation of being a child and feeling not heard, unheard, and then just cast out. Because, I mean, I grew up in a small town, so it was, if there were problem children, that I was a problem adult, but it was, my family knew everyone and everyone knew families, small town, and so they looked at me. It wasn't my parents that people blamed it on. They were like, well, something
Yeah,
went
you're the
wrong with
problem
him,
child.
like nothing. And not to blame anything on my family, they had a part to play, but
Family systems.
it is the family systems, but that's what a small town vibe was. So I relate to that very much, to where it was shifted to the child, not the family, of their responsibility to take care of this. And since it was, but it was like, well, what's wrong with them, the child?
Exactly.
So it's good that you're able to bring the whole family dynamic into it and be like, let's sit down and talk about, and really talk about how the child feels.
It's
So
my favorite.
is there any part of your career now that your younger self would be proud of, now that we're talking about almost like healing a part of your younger child by helping other?
I try not to think about it, and I don't put myself in it because I think I'm very aware that despite me being able to look back and say that I wish that I had a person at that time, I probably really wouldn't have liked that person very much.
Of course.
And so I'm grateful that I get to work with the kids, but I don't give myself credit for it. And I'm not, to a certain degree, of course, I'm proud, but I'm very realistic about the fact that I guess I wish that there didn't need to be people like me and that I didn't need to be proud, and it's not a positive situation that they're in, and that's why they need me.
Oh, of course not.
And so I think I'm just a little bit more real about that and not necessarily being like, oh, I've saved this family's day. At the end of the day, we're there to reflect what's going on within the family, and then they see it for themselves, and then they are the ones that fix it. We give them the tools, but the people that are doing the hard work is the family. And so though my younger self is proud that I am one of those people, I'm not overly like boastful about it, or it's not something that I often think about, because at the end of the day, I don't want these families in these situations, period.
But I mean, that is the hope that, any issue that
No, it's never
we
going to go
resolve,
extinct. Mental
but-
health will not.
Right. It's getting worse, but
Yes.
thankfully there are
Yes.
people like you to kind of help as much as possible. So is there anything about where you grew up, or where you live now, or where we are that you would like people to know about? It doesn't have to, you don't have to, but coming from a person from the South, is there's like a stereotype that you find to be true or untrue?
I think us Northerners are definitely hard, and we're a little bit of a different breed, but though I'd like to move to Florida, I'm very grateful to have grown up in New England, and if we leave, I will miss it very much. I love places like Rocky Point State Park. I love being outside. I love touching grass. I love seeing the green. I love seeing the sea all at the same time. And New England is absolutely beautiful, and there's an abundance of hiking trails and ways to be outside. Unfortunately, I don't like it when it's cold, and so I don't partake in the cold activities. We do have them.
There's a lot of cold.
There's a lot of cold,
There's
and
a lot more
of
cold than there
snow.
is warm, especially recent years. So
But I am grateful. When we go and visit Alabama, it's green,
it is
but
green.
you can't necessarily bring me on like a cool hiking trail or something. Like there's
It would be
there's
woods.
some.
It would be woods, wooded areas, and maybe
Yeah.
a farm, like open land, but nothing. You can't see the ocean or water. I mean, unless you go to
Exactly.
Gunnersville or somewhere like that. So,
Or Nakalula
no, I
Falls.
totally agree. New England has been, I'm so glad that I got to experience it, even if you do drag me back to the South at some point. New England people are some of the most hard-headed, stubborn, blunt people I've ever met in my entire life, but they can take a joke. They love hearing about themselves in positive or negative ways. It's been the best. It's the best, and so kind. Not necessarily nice, but
No.
kind.
Yeah.
Just very kind. And there are really nice people, but overall, I would say that it's just a busy. Everyone's so busy. It's like our fourth cat. She's so busy all the time, and so they're just a bit of a rush. What do you need? I'll help you, but let's fucking get to it. And
Well, when you first moved here, you moved to Rhode Island first. And so Rhode Island and Massachusetts are somewhat similar. In my experience, I feel like Massachusetts is busier. And so when was it for you that you really noticed the true shift of the different culture, other than our accents?
as soon as I got here, I thought that everywhere was a city. For one, I hadn't experienced anything like this, so I thought there was just the driving. It was all highways and busy
yes.
roads and cities, and I loved that. Coming from a country boy going to the city, I was obsessed with it. And now it's gotten a little, driving around the rotaries and trying to figure that stuff out was a nightmare. But I noticed that immediately. I think that was the allure of it, was how drastically different it was. And I could be somebody completely new. I could not necessarily reinvent myself, but just be free and be me here and meet new people that weren't obsessed with religion or my family lineage or what I did. It was just I was a new person that wanted to go out and just get a new culture, I guess, and become more cultured in New England. So
Though you really love New England and you
I'm
would
obsessed with it.
you exactly. Is there one thing from the South that you do wish New England had other than Milo's sweet tea at all store locations, not just Walmart? Is there something the South gets right that we just don't?
I don't think the South gets necessarily anything more right or wrong than well, I mean, but than New England. But in my experience, people have been people, and it's just the different types of personalities that you run into. I miss lake life. There's not a lot of like there's ocean boats and fishing and things like that, but I miss
I'll bring you to
wakeboarding
Lake Winnipesaukee,
and
sweetie.
paddle boarding and just being or whitewater rafting type. You know what I mean? Kayaking down.
That was
I
my senior
kayaked.
trip, and I refused. I refused.
I love just quick. There's rapids and things, but it's just at least moving water. I kayaked on still water up here. I was exhausted. I'll never do it again. I like the water to carry me.
Okay.
And for there to be a nice creek. And
Like
so,
a lazy river situation? Maybe not whitewater rafting?
not a lazy river. No,
Yes.
God, I can't imagine sitting in a lazy river, but
Well, there is the Saco River.
some kind of movement. But that's really the only thing I miss. Otherwise, it was just trying to find something to do. There's always at least something to do here. It may cost you $1 million to do it, but I mean, there's options to do something either indoors or outdoors, and I don't have to drive 6 hours away to get to the beach. I don't know, it's just different.
What
I don't know that the South has anything that I wish the North had.
you now have, and you've had the opportunity of working in mental health as well. And so, what would you say have been the biggest differences that you've seen between the South's access to mental health resources and what you see here?
It's definitely grown in the South. I mean, from, again, when I was a kid 20 years ago to now. But when I was growing up, it was men, from my experience, men don't talk about their feelings. We hold it in, you don't cry, you suck it up and you move on. Life is life and it's gonna suck, and you know what I mean? I had dealt with death and loss early on because I had such a large family, and somebody's gotta die at some point. So,
Yeah.
and loss of pets and animals so it was just the acceptance of this is what life is, and everybody feels this way. Nobody really cares.
Which-
Move on. You shouldn't bother anybody with your problems.
Which
what
is-
I was raised on.
It's so interesting to me that you were raised that way, and I can understand that. And that was also one of the like stereotypes of the South. Of course, that you guys kind of beat your children down there with a switch.
Mm-hmm.
But
Oh yeah, my grandmother had a wooden spoon. The best woman in the world.
yes, I
A
love
saint. But there was a wooden spoon that she would beat me with, or I would have to go pick my own switch, my own hickory off the tree. And if it wasn't big enough, she might as well go out there and
Get it for
unroot
you.
the tree and hit me with that. Yeah. And so you made sure to get a long and a thick enough stick that wouldn't piss her off enough to where she went and got a bigger one and hit you with that, or her hand. You know what I mean? So it was always physical discipline, and honestly, I had to grow out of that. I thought that would be the best way. That is the only way to raise a child, is to have them fear
Yes.
of a consequence of pain, and they learn. Mm-hmm. True or not, I don't know. I don't think that I don't fault my parents for it. It's not like
No.
something that I ever was like, they were wrong for doing it.
It was very
I need
common
it.
at that time as well.
Oh yeah, God, yeah. Still, I mean, I would think
Mm-hmm.
it's still more common down there than it is here.
I think it's also, though mental health wasn't talked about a lot in your family, growing up with at least your dad, at some time you had foster kids with you.
Yeah.
And so, what was that like given? I mean, of course, the foster kids had trauma, and so
I didn't
What does
realize it
that
as a
look
kid,
like?
and it was all hindsight. But I just thought that they were messy kids. That's because I was a kid and I had my own experience, and so I just thought these kids were messy and
Gross.
gross and just not maybe
Unmannered,
just
feral.
unmannered, yeah. And so, but
Like, why are
then
these feral children in my
growing
room?
up, like my dad had fostered a kid that would overeat, eat until he threw up, but that I didn't realize that was because he was starved, and so he would shit his diaper and smear it all over the playpen, and so it was
Oh.
like these kids are just weird.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the capacity of understanding that they were from horrific backgrounds, and it does haunt me. I wish I would have been nicer because I'm not the most social creature still to this day.
You don't like to share
But I
either.
don't like sharing, and I don't. I'm better at sharing now, but especially space and time, and my dad, and
Yes.
so I didn't have much interaction with him. I just kind of
What
stayed away.
what would your dad and your stepmom at the time kind of say to like you and your siblings when these foster kids would come? Would they tell you anything
There was
or
zero conversation about it. They were just new kids, and I had the understanding that we were fostering them for a short period of time. But there was no warning, no conversation
Yeah.
that I remember. Nothing of substance. It was just they live here now, and
did you ever ask, when a baby is smearing poop all over the, like, did you ever just look at your dad and be like, why?
I don't remember. I mean,
Yeah.
I truly
You're like, they were just
like
there.
this is what they do, and
This is
the
how we live
parents are going to
now.
handle it. I grew up. You don't really question
Anything.
anything, like so.
What was that like? I got to question things, I mean, much to my parents'
Demise, detriment.
detriment, but I
Yeah.
still got to ask questions.
I just naively trusted everything that they said. It was like, well, they're an adult. They know what's going on. I don't. And they're telling the truth all that they have to be. They're adults.
Was that because, or do you feel like that's because you were raised religiously where you do,
Oh, I'm
that's
sure.
isn't that one of the commandments is that you respect your elders?
Respect your elders, yeah. Respect your parents, and you know what I mean. So, yeah, it was what you did. You just don't really ask questions about why we're doing something, especially about going somewhere. Why?
Oh.
And then just get my head knocked in, and
I
so no thanks.
I
Just,
did
We're going.
I did ask one too many times. I did not know where my parents were bringing me, and my mother got so sick of having me ask where we were going because I was a very anxious child that she told me that they were going to drop me off at the adoption center.
Jesus, that's not
I
traumatic.
learned we don't ask where we're going.
Yeah, no more.
We don't like the answers. And then we went bowling.
That's way more fun than the adoption center, huh? Still probably had that trauma though of like going, where like a dog going to the vet, I guess, or are we going to the park or are we going to the vet? But now, to wrap up, do you feel like that in your life now that you're north of something? What is it that you feel like you're most north of, whether it be like a past version of yourself? Are you
Yes.
healing? And
I love you dearly, and you know this. And I feel very grateful that I am north of all of the abusive relationships that I've had in the past that have really torn my own self-esteem down, my self-confidence, and just any semblance of who I am. Throughout those relationships, I was constantly changing my style and changing things, and though that can be perfectly fine, sometimes it really is like a cry for help, and I'm so grateful that I'm north of that and north of feeling that and in a place where I'm more comfortable and more confident and I don't have to question anything, and so I can finally focus on things that I never thought were possible before, and I'm so grateful for that. And if it weren't for how I was raised and my upbringing and all of those things, I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have worked so hard to truly find out what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
But that's what has made me like into the person that I am today. And though I give myself the ick sometimes, I'm very grateful for where I am and I'm very proud of who I have turned out to be. I think I dodged a lot of bullets. They hit me a couple of times, but we got back
They
up.
nicked me.
They nicked me. Yeah, like, they nicked me. But yeah, there were times where that's all that was going on in my head was the past relationships that I was in and the things that I did and the things that I said and how I showed up to places. And I'm just so grateful that that doesn't take up any of my brain space anymore.
You should be proud of yourself, and I'm proud of you. And I know that as much as your family pains you, that they are also proud of you. And I hope that the past version of yourself is proud of you. And I can't wait to see what you're north of in 5 years. And I appreciate you doing this with me and being my first.
And your last.
And my last, not my last interview,
Yes.
but my
Yes. I keep ruining
my
that. Go
fir-
ahead.
So, thank you.